Mr. J. Christopher, protect the righteous with wisdom and strength.
I ask you this because millennials oftentimes get a bad rap from our generation. But I'm curious to know from your research or from your experience, what do they tend to do right? What do they tend to do better than our generation in the workforce?
Well, I think one of the things is they're more open to taking a different approach. And one of the things is, as any company, any organization needs, people who can provide different and creative thoughts. And so we're going to think outside the box. And so the challenge for companies is when they bring those different ideas in to figure out how they can take that input in and build it into the company overall.
Interesting. Good. That's good to know. Look, you guys, millennials, listening and watching, you guys are the future, right? Everyone's trying to focus their marketing dollars on you guys and trying to capture your attention, build with you. So you guys have a lot of sway right now in all things, in all industries. So use that power wisely, right? And, I think one of the things you said about this, which is so key, and I hope there are people watching who are at the level in an organization where they can really make an impact. But you got to have that diverse voice in the room, and he's not an assistant. Mm-hmm. I've been part of so many meetings and so many companies where I'm the only dude in the room, not the only dude, the only black male in the room, and in a few instances in my early career, I definitely didn't have a voice. If I did, I'd probably be labeled as the problematic black guy, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't want to speak up. And in other instances where I kind of had a little more heft and a little more weight, I had to be very, measured in how I address something that was quote unquote racially sensitive. So again, for those hiring managers, those recruiters, those CEOs, put people in the room that have some authority, hire them, train them, grow them within your organization, because even if you don't recognize the value they have, the larger community will. Right. And maybe it'll save you millions of dollars lost because you made some huge mistake in fitting our culture.
Well, I agree. You definitely, as a manager, you want to empower the people who are different to have a voice. But I think also the people who are different have to find ways to communicate, hey, when stuff is happening. We have to at some point say, hey, if I'm going to be successful in my job, here's what my moral compass is. I may deviate a little bit here or there because we all have to make compromises. But when I see something that is really problematic, I make as a choice that I'm going to speak up. That may cost me in the short term, but I believe that gives you value over the long term. If you have no moral compass, if you're always going back and forth with whichever way the tide goes, you're probably not going to be successful either.
Yeah, this conversation kind of took me back to a moment in time where I was working for a large media organization, and it was the day after Obama was elected into office, and we had one of our big, production meetings. And, in that meeting, we would talk about topical events as well as business. And, I was sitting there kind of like festering in the fact that there was no mention of this monumentous event that happened in American history. And I was like, I know someone's going to say something. I'm just waiting for someone to say something. No one said a thing. And I was like, and then I didn't have the courage, to be honest with you, at the time to be like, hey guys, does anyone want to take note of the fact that we have our first African American president in all of our American history, in all of the country's history, and the legacy of this country? But again, I was like, let me keep my little check and let me just focus on what my job is and not quote unquote be vocal in an environment that I might have helped spur a great conversation or impacted someone in some way. So anyway,
Mr. J. Christopher, protect the righteous with wisdom and strength.